Today we're talking, should there be a marriage test? Like there's a driver's test before you can drive? Inquiring minds want to know. So I'm going to start off by saying my marriage is perfect.
Clearly. This show
perfect.
is based on the fact that your marriage is perfect.
It is. And I would not need a test because I already know that I'd get 100%, maybe 101%, and the extra credit. But there are those people who do get married, and should they have actually taken like a marriage test before a driver's test? I mean, to see if they were really in a position to be able to go through nuptials and take the proverbial drive and plunge into it. I mean, some religions kind of handle that. I know Catholics kind of have a thing like that, don't they?
Yeah.
Ish?
Isn't that what the engagement is supposed to be about?
Is that the test? I just thought that was so the family could get used to all of your quirks.
No, no, because over time those quirks just they become more and more amplified. So
I just remember my mother-in-law crying and crying and crying and crying, and then we got married.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't blame her. I mean,
I'm perfect.
It's her daughter.
She married the best guy she could have ever married.
She's marrying this guy. Okay. Should there be a test?
Yeah.
No. Like a written test?
Why not?
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
that way we even make it multiple choice, like an A, B. So it's a 50-50 on the question anyway.
Okay. So you brought it up, right? We had to go to get married in the church. So my wife wanted to get married in the church. Which is fine by me. I mean, okay, so let's do it. So that was not a hill I was going to die on. So I was like, all right, let's do that. So we had to go and we had to take this test. It's not really a test, but it was like we had to fill out this questionnaire.
Oh.
Right? And then that questionnaire was used as a way to illuminate the things and places where we had commonality in thought and goals.
Wow. And
then to have the ability to talk about where we didn't have those things in common.
Because my wife and I agree on everything.
So that my wife and I do not agree on everything.
I'm thinking that way.
But
I'm right.
I'm rarely right. So I just pretend. So we did that. So that was interesting because there was a lot of things that my wife and I, my fiance at the time, we had in common. And then there were some things that we didn't have in common. And I would be so bold as to say we still don't have those things in common. But the value of that questionnaire was the big things, the discussions about children, right? And family values and those, like the big things that you have to have in common. Those things we had in common. Because I've said on this show before, right, that while I grew up playing sports and my wife is a musician, right, the pursuit of that goal is the thing we had in common. The things we were doing were different.
Ooh.
Right? And so thereby the people you engage with are different. But the drive to be great at something is the same. So that common thing we had in common. So in that sense, I think that was good. Should there be a test? I think really the only test is if you are lucky enough, to, like I was, to be able to ask, if you're a guy, to ask your soon-to-be fiance wife, assuming it goes well for you, her father for his blessing, that's the test. If you don't do that,
you don't deserve it. I did it.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. It doesn't show well on your personality.
No.
I don't believe. So I asked my father-in-law. I asked him out to lunch and had the conversation with him, and I think I asked him I asked for his permission, and he said that I did not need his permission, but that I could have his blessing. And so my sister, her husband, asked me and my brothers, because my dad had passed away when I was little. So he knew that it was an important value,
Value to
and he
have,
had
yeah.
that value, and so he asked us. And
Interesting.
of course, we were like, of course, you're a rock star, you're a stud. So I think that's the test, right? Because if you asked me, let's say my daughter is 25 years old, and some kid that she's been with for a while, right? Let's say a week, asks me,
Mhm.
you failed the test. You've just straight up failed the test. If they've been together for a while and he's a good person,
Mm-hmm.
then the answer is a hard maybe.
Hard, like an easy maybe. Like yeah. Anyway.
That's a hard maybe. We'll see.
I'm not ready for that yet. Is what he's getting at.
But I don't think there should be. I don't think there should be a test, because there's always an exception to the rule. But I think, right, you should, before you commit to marriage, you should really have an understanding of what that actually means, beyond what I describe as the perverted statist definition of what marriage is. It's not about taxes.
No, I was trying to think of like what the first 5 questions would be, and the top one on my list was, how potent is your flatulence?
That
Number one,
actually, surprisingly enough, on the survey that my wife and I filled out, that was actually the first question.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
I believe it, because
Yeah.
that is an important thing to know, because
Yeah,
if what comes out of them is not all unicorn fluff, and it turns out girls don't fart, they fluff. It just kind of goes. Whew. Yeah, true story. And like the second one would be is how often do you complain about things? If I had to have like the top 2 questions on my questionnaire,
Mm-hmm.
because if it's going to be like, there'd probably be like often, very often, moderately,
Would-
not very often.
Let me ask you this question, Josh.
Uh-huh.
Were you dating your future wife for like a day? Didn't you already know the answers to both of these questions?
Well, I asked like the first date or 2.
I mean, I can imagine
Yeah.
you guys sitting at the
Right.
Roadhouse,
Yeah.
and you're like, hey, honey,
Got a few questions for you.
I have a question for you.
How potent is your flatulence?
Yes. What would you like to ask me? How potent is your flatulence?
Bah.
I believe all of our viewers.
That's a serious question. And those of you sitting at home thinking about that one, you're going to go, actually, I dumped a girl because her flatulence was awful. I mean, who would want to live with that?
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I had one friend break up with a girl by telling her she had a big nose.
Well,
But I don't
that's
have a lot of
nosist.
friends. Freaking noses. But yeah, I mean, there should be like 5 serious questions that people should write out for themselves.
All right. What are those? What do you think those 5 questions are? In all seriousness,
Right.
it's not about farts.
Right.
It could be.
It couldn't be. Will Ferrell said it best.
I'm sure this is going to be good.
To find out who a person truly is, you put them in a room with a computer with slow internet to see the kind of person they are. How quick do they get to anger over little things?
Okay.
That'd be number 1.
Okay.
You know.
Again, I don't think that that's a question you have to write, because if you've dated somebody for more than a week, when the shiny veneer of the fake you that you present throughout the first few weeks of your
Right.
relationship
And
washes off,
and they see the kind of rusted,
you should know.
fading car smell.
See, like I would imagine my wife knows before she was my wife that there are certain things that just make my blood boil, and I'm going to react. But I also know, right, that there are things that make her blood boil that she's going to react to. I'll tell you a story.
Oh, please
Okay?
do.
So while we were dating, this was one of the most shocking things when it happened. I was like, oh my God, this just happened. And I didn't know what to do. So my natural inclination is just to stop talking. Which has gotten me out of trouble more times than I can count.
Not what I do.
Okay, so we were at her house, her house, and we were watching like Mystery at the Museum. We were watching because it was her house. It was like one of her shows. And then that show ended, and we were just having fun, and we were talking about stuff and eating and just kind of goofing around. And then the show switched to like wives who murdered their husbands or something like that. It was like women murderers or something like that, right? And so, oh my God. So we're sitting there and we're just talking, and like something popped up on the screen, and the angry wife who had just killed her husband, right, was driving in a car. So this was like an actor reenactment, right? Yeah. And the actress that was doing it was like turning the wheel super aggressively, right? Because like when you drive, you have to adjust. Right? But she's like doing this, right? And I looked at the screen and I said something to the effect of, something to the effect of, right? Not only do women kill their husbands, but when they do it, they still can't drive. Something like that. And my wife went to like 100. And it was like the closest thing to her being a feminazi that I've ever seen in my life. And I thought for a second, she might just end it, right?
Right, this might be the end of our whole relationship. Oh, crap.
And I remember thinking to myself, wow.
Time to shut up.
So that topic is off limits.
Yes. The one thing that I learned that I should have been on the test before we got married was that I can't say you need to calm down. Or we're in the middle of a fight.
No.
That right there apparently takes it up a new notch of energy and level. I'm like, hold on, it's not that big of a deal. Just calm down. I'm not calming down.
Yeah, that never works.
Like, oh, she's a little bulldog. Yeah, she's got that New York fighter, New York elbows is what I call it. She just starts plowing through things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, her reaction. Whew.
Yeah.
Was like, man. There it is.
Right.
There's the passion right there. Because I clearly touched a nerve.
Right. What do you mean they can't drive? It's like, oh, you completely changed.
I thought it was being funny.
Did a full moon come out?
She did not find it funny. That's okay. I mean, because
even he occasionally makes mistakes.
So some indeterminate amount of months after that passed, and she forgave me, and and then she said yes. So I was like, all right, that's sweet.
Couldn't have been that
Just
bad.
remember, don't talk about that in front of your now fiance, because it's not going to garner a laugh. She does not find it funny.
It does not take much for it to go from an engagement to a breakup. It doesn't take much.
See, that's the test. It doesn't take much to go from a relationship to a breakup either. Like I said, I was like, oh boy, I think I might have just ended that one. But I didn't.
There we have it.
Right? So I live to screw it up another day.
Story of my life. I go home every night wondering what I'm going to do wrong.
Shit.
Guys, if you like what you've seen here, subscribe to the channel. There's lots of this going on. Mostly it's all right here. But that's okay. Occasionally he shares stories about how he has screwed things up because we're guys. That's what we do-ish. Also, check out ourcommunitynow.com. Head over there. Get all the stories that you want to hear, see, and know what's going on in your community because that's what we do. We like to talk about you. Ooh, that one kind of rhymed. Gosh.
Still didn't rhyme with husband.
Nothing rhymes with husband. We taught you all that. Anyway, guys, this is My Wife Hates This. I'm Josh.
Have a good day.
Whatever. We'll see you then.